My name is John Schlemmer. I'm with JAAS Systems. We are an Acumatica ISV, specifically in the discrete manufacturing market space. And what I'm going to do today is step you through a little bit about who we are and then show you an overview of the product. JAAS Systems is a provider of manufacturing software for Acumatica. We have written a manufacturing suite module that's comprised of the bill of material, routing, and production management, as well as MRP suites that totally integrates into Acumatica's distribution and the financial suites. So what I'd like to do is take you through the product and give you a high-level overview of what the product can do. First module within the suite is the bill of material suite. And within the bill of material suite, it is broken down into 4 different sections. So the top section is more of a filter where I can actually come in and select the inventory ID. And once I select that, I can select the different warehouse. Once I've done that, or if I like, I can select the bill of material ID directly from this selector. Once I've selected my bill of material ID, it brings in the inventory ID along with the warehouse or site. We do have full revision control that is based on an effective date. And we do support multiple manufacturing facilities via different warehouses or sites. You can also have alternate bills of material within each site. So I could have a different bill of material that I use as an alternate, specifically in this particular warehouse as well. The next section of the screen is broken down to the routings. We combine our bills of material and routings into one. That way we can time phase our materials coming in through MRP. Within the operation steps, we can set up as many operations as need be, give it an operation description, attach a work center to it. We can track setup time, run time in pieces per hour or hours per piece. Same thing with machine time in pieces per hour, hours per piece. And then we can also apply queue time or wait time. We can backflush material and or labor. So in this case, I'm backflushing labor, which tells me that I'm going to use the standard cost off of the work center as my labor cost. Each one of the tabs down below in the materials section are attached to an operation. So in this case, I've got a materials tab. These are all the materials that I need for this particular operation. If I had other materials on the second operation or need to add some for this particular bill of material, I can just come in here and add a specific inventory item. It will pull it out of the inventory file and give me the unit of measure as I put in how many are required, gives me the unit of measure, brings in the cost if there is one in the inventory side, and then I fill that out. The steps tab is basically freeform text, and this would actually print out on the traveler in the production system. We can also track tools and tool cost. So within this particular example, I've got a die that I'm going to use. I can come in and add one that I need to use, and it's going to store it at 10 cents each time I use one on this. We can also track multiple overheads. So we can do as many as you need. These are all user defined, and I'll show you that here in a second in the overheads file. But it will basically, we can do fixed and variable overheads, and then we'll multiply a factor times the rate. So if I come over into the overhead file, these are the two that I have set up. In this case, the one that we looked at was fixed, and the cost rate was 4, and my factor was 1. So it's going to automatically apply $4 worth of cost to the production order when I do that. Everything is routed back to the general ledger as well. So in this case, it's going to go back to this particular overhead account and sub-account. I mentioned we can do a variety of variable overheads as well. We can do variable by labor hours or cost, material cost, machine hours, quantity completed, and total quantity. So there's a lot of flexibility in how you can do overheads and fine-tune your costs within our system. Other supporting files, we talked a little bit about tools. Basically what the tools allows you to do, it comes in and allows me to put in a unit cost. I can put in a total cost of how much that particular tool cost me. We will track consumed use and total number of uses. So in this different example, I changed my mold and I'm charging a quarter. It cost me $1,000 to purchase, and I've consumed over $23,000, so I'm getting my money's worth out of this mold. And I've used it over 54,000 times. Everything, again, goes back into general ledger. We can handle mobile machines as well. So if I picked a specific CNC machine, I can tie it back into the fixed assets module. I can apply a standard cost to this particular machine, and then I can give it a specific calendar. So certain machines may only work 8 hours a day. Others may work 16 or 24 hours a day. So we can set up multiple calendars within the system and drive that all the way down to the machine level. I can give it an efficiency, and again, everything back to general ledger. Now all of this rolls up into the Work Center master file. So within the Work Centers, if I pick the same CNC machine, I can make it active or inactive. We can handle outside processing as well. So if you need to send something outside to be plated, as an example, you can track that within the production side. And when you bring it back in, it'll automatically go back to that particular production order. I can give a standard cost to an overall work center. The basis for capacity is either going to be people or machines. So it's either going to be based on a crew or based on the number of machines. And then we can set up defaults to backflush materials and labor. So in the prior example, when I was on the bill of material and I selected a work center, if I selected CNC and I had both of these checks marked here, then it would automatically backflush any materials and backflush any labor that I attached to that machine. You can put, you need to specify which warehouse this particular machine is going to be. And then the location allows you to get into more of a Kanban or lean type manufacturing, to where you will pull all inventory directly from that specific location for this specific machine in this example. There's 4 tabs associated with the machine, with the work center. And the first one is the shift. So this brings in how many people I need in this shift, how many machines, what the efficiency is, the calendar for this particular shift, and then any differential as well. And again, it goes back to the general ledger. I can attach overheads to a specific machine as well. Before we looked at it based on the operation. In this case, I may wish to add a floor space. And I want to do it variable by quantity, and my quantity is my square footage on that particular, on this particular work center. So each time that I run things over this work center, I'm going to apply a factor of 32 times whatever my overhead rate was. So say it was a nickel, and then it's going to apply to that overhead. Machines, we showed about a couple of the other machines. When I check this box for use the machine cost, it's going to use this $15 instead of the standard cost of 0 in this case. So as an example, if I had $13 of standard cost and I wanted to use these 2, then each time I ran things over that certain machine, it would use that specific machine cost. Okay, let's talk a little bit about production. If I look at my production order maintenance, this is where we're actually going to come in and cost and schedule certain production orders within your facility. There's a couple ways that you can get production orders into the system. You can actually just come in and manually put one in, pick the inventory ID that you wish to build, and the system will then, once I save this, will actually copy in the latest bill of material that we have in the system. The other way is I could bring something in from MRP from a planned order standpoint. And the third way is within the sales order system, we can actually come out and add a specific order for a customer and attach that to a production order, create one directly. So in this case, I've got a product called a DL3500, and you'll notice that I've got 1 in red, which means my inventory is going to go negative. So I've got 0 on hand, I got -1 available. And if I go over and look, we also add what's called a production number button or field over here. Under actions, I can select create production order, and the system will automatically create the next production order, in this case 395. So if I go back over into production and I look at production order 395, this is a production order that we just created. And I'm going to finish that on 3/4, which was my requested date on my sales order. So I'm going to produce one of these. A couple things that we can look at here. From an action standpoint, I can actually go out and plan. I can release this order. I can complete an order short, or I can cancel it if I've done a financial transaction to it. In a planned status, you cannot apply financial transactions to this. We'll release this here in a minute. We've got 2 inquiries on here, 1 to production detail. This takes me to the production bill of material. So in this case, this is a direct copy of the particular production order that we just created. So I've got 2 operations. I'm back flushing the first one, and I'm going to apply direct labor on the second, and I'm going to issue my components. We could back flush components as well. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and select this second one to be a back flush component. So when I complete this, it will back flush that particular one. And actually what I'll do, I'll go ahead and take this off, and I'll back flush the second operation. That way you can see both the materials and the labor being back flushed on the same one. So if I go back to my production order, I'm in a planned state, and what I need to do is release this. There's a couple ways that we can do this to release it. I can come in and release one manually. I can actually come in and go to a processes which says release production orders. So I could select 1, 2, or all, and actually come in and just process the one particular order. The other thing that I can do is we have what's called a production summary inquiry, to where I can bring up the same ones in that. I can drill down into that. It'll bring up the pop-up window for the particular production order, and then I can actually take action and release it from here. So I'm just going to go ahead and release it directly from this screen. And once I release the order, now I can actually start financial transactions. Before we do that, we've got 3 other tabs here that I want to go over. One is the References tab. So in this particular case, this was directly created from sales order, and we will bring in the customer and the order number into the References tab. The WIP account is the work in process account that I'm going to utilize for this particular production order, as well as the WIP sub. And this is the bill of material that we copied in with the revision and the bill of material effective date. We track a variety of history events. So in this case, I've created the order from the sales order screen, and the person that did that was logged in as admin, which is how I'm logged in. But if you had multiple people creating production orders from sales orders, it would have their login name associated here. Same thing with release. So now I've released this. I'll come back to this screen as we run financial transactions. And the totals tab will break down the cost based on the labor by the machine, material, tool, fixed and variable overheads, any adjustments that I may do, and it will give me a WIP total for that particular production order. The WIP complete is either going to be your standard cost or planned cost. If they both equal out, then great. If they have a variance, then we'll write those transactions to the variance accounts. So let's go in and actually release materials to this particular production order. So I go into the Materials tab, and there's a couple things that we can do. I can actually come in and create line by line a particular transaction for this. You'll notice I've got 3 components, so I could actually go out and release each one. If it's a lot serial, you can be forced to put in the lot or serial number for that component. We track lot and serial cradle to grave. So we can do it down to the component level. We can do it on the parent item level as well. So that's one way that you can get the particular materials issued. This can also be a barcoded screen. We actually have a integration with the Fusion WMS software. They have extended their data collection capabilities into our system, so you can utilize that. Or we can come in and create what we call a wizard, to where I can actually come out and select the particular work order or production order, and the system will go out and it'll pull all the materials that I need for that production order. I can pick one, or I can actually select all, which is what I'm going to do for this particular demonstration. What this does, it will come back in and fill in that entire grid for me. So you'll notice that I have an auto-assigned lot number that I'm going to use on this particular one. I check this, I make sure that everything's okay. I can take it off hold and release it. Now, we do have batch processes for materials and for labor and move transactions as well. That will actually, you can do these and schedule them to run overnight. I've got my green check, so everything's good. I can come back to the production order and actually come in and look at my event history where I've added materials. And then I can look at my totals, and here I'm starting to build my costs. So it populated the 671 of material cost onto that. If I look at my production detail, you'll also notice that I've updated a couple things here where I've put my operations into a release status. And when I look at my materials that I just issued, you'll notice that I've actually issued one. Here's where my cost is, and I didn't have any scrap. So now let's go and look at a couple different transactions of how we can accumulate labor costs. A labor transaction, we can actually come in, and this is integrated with the Fusion data collection system as well. So I selected my production order. It defaults to the operation that's on there. I can select an employee ID, which is totally integrated within Acumatica's employee file. So we've added a checkbox that says this is a production employee. So as many as production employees as you have, you select the production employee. Then you get to select which shift, as we can handle shift differential. Number of labor hours that they worked. So we'll say they worked 1. It pulls in the labor rate directly from the Acumatica employee file. So this is the labor amount, and then it's asking for the quantity that he completed at that particular operation, and then if he scrapped any. So once I've gotten through this and I take it off hold, I come out and release it. And again, as I mentioned, you can set this up in a batch operation and schedule it to run overnight as well. So my production order maintenance, if I come back, here's my event history where I've added a labor transaction now, and here's my $20 that I've actually added on this as well. So now I've completed the first operation. So now I'm going to actually do a move transaction because we're back flushing labor as well as the materials on that. So all we have to do is a simple move transaction. Again, this is a screen that's barcoded with Fusion's data collection. You'll notice that it defaults to operation 20 because I've completed it. This is basically just to go ahead and record production. So I've got the option to put in the quantity, number scrapped. You'll notice that I'm auto assigning a serial number to the finished product that's going to go into inventory. Again, this can be a batch transaction, but I'm going to go ahead and release this. It's going to go ahead and process and post, and now it's moving it into inventory. And now that it's done, when I come over here, you'll notice I've got 1. I've updated the quantity complete. I've updated my status up here to completed. Now, if I look at my event history, I've got a move transaction down here. I have multiple moves because I moved it from a labor transaction standpoint from cost. I moved the material itself, and I moved it to inventory. So now if I look at the totals tab, I've added additional labor cost. I've added additional material cost. In this case, my WIP total equals my WIP complete, because the WIP complete number is what gets posted into the inventory price cost fields under the last cost. Some other things that we have, we can do WIP adjustments. The unreleased PO receipts will automatically tie a purchase order to a production order. And so if you send something out to outside process, as an example, you may issue a purchase order for that service. The service comes back in, you receive it, the cost then gets applied to the production order here as a material cost. I mentioned the production summary button that we can actually go out and look at and drill down into. We can sort this by the variety of statuses that we have. So if I look at my release, these are the 2 that I have released that I'm working on. The Work Center Dispatch allows me to drill down into a specific work center and see all the production orders that are being worked on at that particular work center. Some of the processes, so release production orders, release batch, and release production batches. So from a material standpoint and a labor transaction, this is what I mentioned. One of the other things is if we look at my completed work order over here, where it's completed. Now, one of the key things here is I can still apply transactions to this production order. So if I had to add more labor because somebody forgot to turn in a labor card, if I needed to add more materials because we forgot we had to scrap one and now we've got to rework it. So I can still do that when it's in a completed state. Now, once I come over and I do a close production order, and I actually close this particular production order, any variance accounts, then I got to put in okay, so we'll add my WIP variance accounts into here, and now when I actually go out and process this, it'll go out and process any variance accounts will go to these particular WIP variance account and sub-account. Now when I go back and look at my production order, you'll notice it's in a closed state. That's very important because at this point in time, any transactions that you need to post to this particular production order now have to be done through journal entry transactions. So that was kind of quick within the production order system. From a reporting standpoint, we've got a production summary, production order cost detail, cost summary report. We can look at lot and serial hierarchies all the way down through. The production ticket is basically a traveler that prints out that can be barcoded as well. So from an MRP standpoint, when we run MRP, we take into account a variety of things. So we look at all purchase orders that are coming in, all sales orders from a demand standpoint, all master production schedules, all forecasts, all production orders that are out there, safety stock levels, reorder points, vendor lead times. And when we run MRP, we come back and these are the 3 items in this case that I need to take action on. So, and this is my action date. So on 2/20, because I needed to get it in on 2/22, I needed to get this particular order manufactured. From a purchasing standpoint, I've got a 7-day lead time in this case for my blue wrap. And from another manufacturing standpoint, I can produce this part in a day. So it goes from 26 to 27. We can actually create production orders directly from here. So since this is a manufacturing source, this is a production order, I come in, I click it, I plan it, and it creates the next available production order. Same thing from a purchase standpoint. So I've got my BL 101. I've looked into all of my safety stock reorder points. I've got multiple quantity here of 11.7, and then I've got a preferred vendor that I actually buy this from. If I have multiple vendors as I do here, I can actually come out and change this to resource if need be on this one time, but I'm going to leave it as McGovern. And when I actually come out and plan this, what it does, it takes, it will automatically populate with McGovern. I still could change this if I need to, and if I had security to do so. But once I go out and create this for McGovern, it will actually create a purchase order within the purchasing system for that direct quantity. So if I go back to my tickler, one last thing I wanted to show here, we've actually just released this particular feature, and it's an MRP details inquiry, so this is more of the pegging. So it shows that I've only got one on hand, but then I've got all of the quantity breakdown, when the promise dates was, and then I can drill down into the reference. So I've got a production order, and then I've got another one where it's production material. MRP planned out an order for me. I've got 3 forecasts, and at the end of the day, I've got the one on hand, and this is where a lot of my demand's coming from. We can handle forecasts, as I mentioned, so we can bring in a forecast for a specific item. You basically just populate the item by selecting it, and this is one that I've already got set up with wholesale monthly. This is the quantity, and it's going to give me 3 different forecasts for this particular item. If I make it dependent, it will blow down through the entire bill of material structure and produce those records as well. The mass production schedule, basically a similar thing. Just from a production standpoint, I can come in and add, and come in and basically say I want to have so many in here on the 27th of February, and I want to have 40 of these in my warehouse at that particular time. So MRP, when it runs, will actually go out and plan and backward schedule to make sure that I'm going to be able to produce 40 of these and get them into my warehouse at that particular time. As far as MRP, you can come out and do a regen of MRP. You can schedule that through the Acumatica scheduling functionality. And then that will actually come back and give me all of my demand and where I'm going to get the supply for that demand